I absolutely love building trading bots with Python. It is so simple and straightforward. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to do this with MetaTrader 5 and Python. And we're going to be starting to get the data that we need to build the trading signals that we get from our trading bots. It's a super helpful and impactful episode, and it's really not as challenging as you might think now that I've done the work for you. I really hope that you'll enjoy this episode, and when you're ready, get into the code. There's a couple of things you'll need in order to get started. So first of all, I really recommend you check out the user interface that we've been building in this series. That will really help you get the most out of your MetaTrader 5, and it'll be super helpful as we continue to develop it through this series. Secondly, having a working MetaTrader 5 is absolutely critical for this episode. The data that we'll be using comes straight out of your MetaTrader 5, which may be different from my one, so make sure that you've got it. And finally, check out the GitHub code repository. All of the code on there is freely available. If you ever get stuck, you'll be able to see in that GitHub that I've helpfully listed each episode in its own folder, which will really help you explore it. And in exciting news, I've been really thinking about building this information that I've been sharing on YouTube into an actual proper course. And I'd love to get your feedback on the sorts of topics you'd like, how much you reckon I should pay for it, and ultimately, how valuable you would find that. That's really important to me. It helps me to continue to earn revenue as a creator, but also it's money that we can reinvest straight back into the TradeOxy platform. Well, that's all from me. Let's get into the code. In this episode, we're going to be making this user interface actually work, which is pretty cool. Building on the previous episode where I actually showed you how to build this user interface. So here's what we're aiming for. We go ahead, we select our settings, choose MetaTrader 5, and then we fill in our symbol that we want and what time frame we want, and we push get data. We're going to end up with this cool data frame that has a bunch of information in it. This is really important because this will help us to build our strategy moving forward. So how do we go about doing this in code? In the previous episode, like I mentioned, I showed you how to set up the user interface, and we set up our get data function and a bunch of other things. In this episode then, I'm going to show you the code that supports it. You can do all sorts of cool things like learning how to get information from MetaTrader about what you want. So let's get into it. We're going to work backwards from this. I'm going to show you what we need to do for MetaTrader 5. In the previous episodes, I showed you about how to start MetaTrader 5, and we worked through getting your symbols. Now we want to start getting our historic data from MetaTrader 5, and that's what we use to create basically our signals that tell us whether we want to buy or sell different currency or asset pairs that MetaTrader 5 offers. Here's the function to get the historic data. So we need two inputs. We need a symbol and we need a time frame. When we get the time frame, it'll just be a string, and we actually have to convert it into something that's MetaTrader 5 friendly. Now, this is the reason why we put in the MetaTrader 5 interface, because all of the different platforms have a slightly different way of doing it. I know it's annoying. We get to the data normalization, but unfortunately that's just how it works, and I guess every platform has their own group of people who want to use it that way, and that's totally fine. So to get our time frame, we take our incoming time frame string and we convert it into something that's part of the MetaTrader 5 class. So here's what this looks like. We have this function called convert to MT5 time frame, and that takes an input time frame string and converts it into this object here. So here I've listed out all of the different types of timeframes that you can get from MetaTrader 5, so M1, M2, M3, all the way down to the month one if that's what you wanted. If you put in a MetaTrader 5 timeframe string that's not supported, it's going to raise an error that says that timeframe's not supported, and that'll prevent the function from executing any further. So let's get back to our historic data. So we have our time frame, we convert that to a time frame object, and then we go to MetaTrader 5, and we use this copy rates from pos function. And there's a few different options that we need to put in here. First of all, we need our symbol, then we need our time frame, then we need to say where we're going to start our candles from, and then we need to say the number of candles that we want to retrieve. Now this one here can be a little bit challenging for people to get their heads around, because the 0th candle is actually the current candle that's still getting made. It's technically still a candle, it'll have its open, high, low and close, but the close in particular is going to be changing all the time because it's the current live one. In a lot of cases, for a lot of technical indicators, what you actually want is to select the first element, which is the second element but the first position, or the 0th position then the first position. I cover how you manage that a little bit later on, so please don't worry about it too much. It's just for you to be aware that a lot of times you'll see people change this to a 1. Our MetaTrader 5 interface, that actually gets us the data from MetaTrader 5. However, as I've already alluded to, we need to do a little bit of data normalization, particularly because we want this to be a multi-function trading bot and Copilot. We don't just want it to be for MetaTrader 5. We want to be able to access lots of different other exchanges, and that means we need to get our data into a normalized format. If you're following along in this series, you need to go and create a file called data_normalizer.py. And this will be the one that normalizes all the data from our different exchanges as we go through. Inside that function, what I want you to do is to go ahead and import pandas, and then I want you to normalize your data format. And you do that, we're going to pass a pandas data frame every single time. Then we're going to tell it what platform it is, and out of it's going to come another pandas data frame that has the information in the right format for us to use. So right now we just have one platform. So if the platform is MetaTrader 5, we want to convert it as follows. We want time to become timestamp. We want our open to become candle open, high, low, close, etc., etc. So we go ahead and do that there. Next, we want to convert our timestamp. We want to convert our data into a timestamp. So that's really important because that will allow us to use time series data moving forward. And we just do that using the pandas to date time function, and we pass it the column that we want to convert and what unit we want to convert it into. You will need to play around with this unit a little bit. I've just put it in seconds now just to demonstrate it. Different MetaTrader 5s can sometimes have different ways of doing it. Milliseconds is a common one as well. This is our data normalizer function. Okay, so far we've built our MetaTrader 5 interface to get the raw data from our MetaTrader 5. Then we've built our data normalizer function. Now what we want to do is put those two together, and we're going to do that in our helper functions file. You should have created this earlier in the series, so go ahead and put that in now. Here we're going to combine our get data function. So how this works is we have our get data, and this is called from app.py, which you would have seen in the previous episode, and then we're going to go ahead and fill it out. So we need 3 different inputs. We need to know what platform we're getting it for, we need to know what symbol we want to query, and we need to know what time frame. Keep in mind that these 3 symbols are all defined in the user interface. So by the time they get to this function, they've already, there's no way for this function to be called without that information being provided. Hence the reason I don't do any error checking here. But these are also going to be dynamic. So for instance, platform is defined by you. It's the platforms that you want. Once you open your MetaTrader 5, it queries to get all of the symbols that you want. So that's totally fine. And then we've already talked through what to do with your time frame to call that. Don't forget, if you ever want any help with any of this, you can just join the Discord. It's totally fine. I will love to help you. Then we go here. So if we have our platform is equal to MetaTrader 5, we're going to call a get historic data function. So MetaTrader 5 interface get historic data. Okay. There's our get historic data. We go through, we query the data using our copy rates from POS. We convert it into a pandas data frame, and then we go through our data normalizer to put the data out, and we get our data there. Okay, so that puts it all together, and it really allows us to create quite a smooth user experience for your TradeOxy terminal. Hopefully that's helped you a lot, and in the next episode we're going to take this a little bit deeper and start to build a strategy, which I think is really exciting. So I'll see you there.